Hello, everybody. I want to take a quick look at this Brian Walshe verdict slip because it's quite bad. It's not as bad as some others, but it's really bad. I'm going to start by just reading it. I'm going to try to read it in a neutral tone, but we'll see how far that goes. I'm not going to read the caption. Count 001. On or about January 1, 2023. Hard return. All caps now. Murder in the first degree with deliberate premeditation. About 2 enters, I think. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. Guilty as charged, murder in the first degree. Guilty of murder in the second degree. First of all, what is this? Like, why can't you just be normal and just write a sentence that makes sense? Just string a coherent thought together. I assume what they're trying to say is, on count 1, which charges a murder in the first degree with deliberate premeditation committed on or about January 1st, 2023, we, the jury, find the defendant, and then they give the options. But that's not what it says. It says count 001, on about January 1, 2023, murder in the first degree with deliberate premeditation. We, the jury, find the defendant. Just put it in English. Just talk normal. Okay, that's my first complaint. My second complaint is up here. You have with deliberate premeditation, and then you admit that from the checkbox, which might not technically be incorrect, but don't just be normal. Just put this language. If this is the charge, put it in the checkbox. Because now some, appellate lawyer can say, oh, well, it's not clear whether the jury found deliberate premeditation because you said murder in the first degree up here, but what they checked doesn't have deliberate premeditation. Now, is that a great argument? No, because it says as charged. And I assume that as charged has deliberate premeditation, but you're just inviting, appellate challenges that you don't need. And you can fix it by just writing the same thing here, as you did up here. And what is with this? Massachusetts is addicted to this weird spacing. Just write a sentence, just one coherent sentence right here. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be fancy. Just write normal. Okay, now I have a few examples as to what verdict slips can look like. There are actually mistakes in several of these examples, but they're, you need some background knowledge to spot them. So hopefully you guys don't notice them so I can pretend like I'm giving you good examples. This first one here is a Fulton County case from about 15 years, almost exactly 15 years ago. In 8 days, it'll be 15 years. This is the state of Georgia versus Atkinson. Fulton County. Count 1. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty as to the offense of murder. Then it gives the statute. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant guilty or not guilty as to the offense of felony murder. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, and so on and so forth. It's very simple. It's just a simple sentence. And you have the count here. And, of course, they have the indictment with them. So if they're unsure on the, what's being charged, they can look at the indictment, their clarification, or they can ask the judge. But it's just a simple sentence, a simple coherent thought. This is where the mistake was, my favorite statute in the world, but that's not the subject of this video. This is a federal verdict form, Eastern District of Virginia. This was before I think it's Court of Appeals. I think it's the Court of Appeals recently. Jury verdict form. 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Patrick Tate Adamiak, count 1, With respect to count 1, receive and possess an unregistered firearm, we find the defendant, Patrick Tate-Damiak, and then they have guilty or not guilty. Little wordy for my taste, but whatever. It's coherent. Count 2, with respect to count 2, unlawful possession and transfer of a machine gun, we find the defendant, Patrick Tate-Damiak, guilty or not guilty. Down the line, you go to 4, with respect to count 5, gives the case number. All good. Simple, clean. There's not this weird spacing. It just says what it says. This is Daniel Lee Chapman. This case drives me insane, but not the verdict form. Verdict form. This is Fulton County again. Judge Krause, who is amazing. Verdict form. Check only one blank under each count. Count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, guilty of violation of the Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. Count 2, 3, 4. Same all the way down the line. Guilty of felony murder, and then it specifies the underlying felony. Guilty of felony murder specifies the underlying felony. Same here, same here. There you go. Very simple. Very, very simple. Very, very clear. It just says what it says. And again, these are from the same jurisdiction. And you'll see that they're 15 years apart or 13 years apart, but they're different styles, but they're both pretty clear. This is another Fulton County. This is, I believe, closer to the Chapman case. This is, I'll say from the YSL case, tangentially related to the YSL case. Count 2 murder. As to the indictment, which alleges the defendants committed murder, we, the jury, find defendant 1 guilty. We, the jury, find defendant 2 guilty or not guilty. They said guilty. Count 3 felony murder. Count 4 felony murder. Count 6, that's to Jamari Holmes. Count 7, count 8, count 9. Same thing. It's just a coherent sentence in plain English. This is the YSL case. Verdict form. Your verdict as to each item must be unanimous. Count 1. This is a complicated count, by the way. There are multiple parts of it, but I still think it's clearer than the incredibly simple case in Norfolk. Count 1. Conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. Please make a determination of not guilty or guilty as to each subsection separately. Your verdict as to each subsection may be the same or it may be different. As to conspiracy to violate subsection A of the RICO Act, guilty or not guilty, guilty. As to subsection B, same thing. Then it says, if your verdict is guilty for either subsection above, please identify on the next page the overt acts that any conspirator committed in furtherance of the criminal objectives of the conspiracy, to which all 12 of you unanimously agree. This is a very complicated verdict slip, and it's still miles and miles simpler than a literal one count murder verdict slip. Count 2, murder Donovan Thomas, guilty, not guilty, or not guilty, guilty. Participation in criminal street gang activity, not guilty, guilty. Marijuana, it gives the count, it gives the charge, guilty, not guilty, guilty. 61, 63. You see there's some numbers missing here. That's because of something called a directed verdict of acquittal. That's because there was no evidence of guilt presented. Okay. So that is another verdict slip that's relatively straightforward, even though it's a way more complicated charge on count 1. It's just written in English, in plain English, even though it's complicated. It's laid out in a simple way. It tells the jurors to give the information that the court needs to be sure that a verdict has been properly rendered. Now, let's go back to this. Here we go. Count 001. On or about January 1, 2023, murder in the first degree with deliberate premeditation. Now there's 2 returns. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. Guilty as charged, murder in the first degree. Guilty of murder in the second degree. Which is, like, this is fine. This is fine. I hate that this is omitted. This date is out of context. It makes it sound like the jury is acting on this date, but it's just unnecessarily complicated. Just write in English. Just be normal. Just be normal. And this is not a problem.